Welcome to the TROH show. This is a special edition number 4. We're doing this outside of what we normally do because some issues came up this week, and I believe they started on the 14th that that we saw as a good teaching moment to help people understand what's not to do and why the patriot groups are not really respected as much as they could be if they would just follow protocols and do what is normally done or complete their stuff, complete the actions that they're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to be sharing screens with a lot of this so everybody can take a look. And there was a public notice that came out. I think and they came after me directly. And I was noticing I tried to figure out why they were coming after me directly, but it is what it is. Here you go. Okay, this public notice came to us. It was kind of funny, really, but here. All right, so this message is intended to be delivered to one Keith Livingway is intended to function as a notice of lawful proceedings being brought against you based on the complaint of one Charles Stewart. Okay, let's go over to Charles Stewart. Let's see who Charles Stewart is. Now, Charles Stewart, apparently he calls himself a deputy peace officer. He's under American Christian Israelites public constitutional law. That's what he calls himself. And he says East Cascadia Village Common Law Precinct. I don't know what that is. I still haven't figured out. I went all over his website. I can't figure out what that is. And there's his picture. Okay. And then there's another one where he calls himself a justice of the peace. And apparently this is over in Oregon. Yeah, the Oregon State Republic. Okay, there's no such state. There's only one state in Oregon, and that would be the state of Oregon. And if you go back and look at their original constitution, you'll see that it is the state of Oregon. Now, we've basically talked about this over and over again. You cannot change the name of the state. There can be different governments within the state, meaning the different forms like communist, dictatorship, republic, republican, representative, all that kind of thing. Okay. But you cannot change the name of the state. That's creating a state within a state. It's violation of international law, meaning the law of nations. A state cannot be created within a state. You can have different governments. So governments are separate from the states, just so everybody knows. We'll get back to this particular thing in a minute. So these guys are calling themselves, I think they're calling themselves qualified electors or something like that. There was, it says others affirming their support and all who are proceeding nation state ex-rel. Have no idea what that is. Okay. And in the public interest, the name on behalf of the people of the nation state of the USA. So Charles Stewart is coming in as a full representative without anything of the people of a nation state of the USA. So he's saying that he's representing the whole country. And then he's saying that it was a leadership of a small but influential organization, the modern American patriotic movement, which publicly professed to be dedicated to bringing more honorable and accountable American national government. We already have an American national government. We already have a national government. That's already been done. It's been well established. There was only 90 days, okay, to object to that when it was established, and nobody objected once it was published. So nobody can come in and object to anything like that. It is what it is, and it has to be vetted all the way back, and it has been vetted by a couple of organizations, all around the country. So that being said, a Charles Stewart says he came forward from a complaint, but also he's claiming to be justice of the peace at the same time in the same case. That's a conflict of interest. Justice of the peace cannot file a complaint and then resolve the complaint. I'm putting together a scenario here. Now, when you go into the index of archives, you'll see a lot of these documents here. Okay, and you'll see some of these qualified electors. Here's the oath of office of a qualified elector. his qualified elector. Okay, it's 5 pages long, and it essentially starts out. It's for the township level public office, but it doesn't say what township. Which one is he talking about? There's no such thing. You can't have a township level public office of a qualified elector unless it's for a specific township. And the only way to do that is to be a citizen of that township. And the only time they separate out the qualified elector status would be in what they, quotations, what they do in electoral college. Okay, so he says, sincerely do intend to responsibly and faithfully perform the ancient duties of a qualified elector. That's no such thing. It does not exist. I'm going to show you why. This is a petition for new election districts, okay, and this is for reference to a county board of elections upon the petition of 20 registered electors of any township. Okay, borough, ward, or election district to the court of the proper county, praying for the division or redivision of such township, borough, ward, or election district into 2 or more election districts. So I don't see where this particular oath here has anything to do with that. And there has to be that the electors immediately on their meeting and before they proceed into the elections of senators take such oath of support and fidelity to this state as this convention or legislature shall direct, and also an oath to elect without favor, affection, partiality, or prejudice such persons for senators as they in their judgment or conscience believe be best qualified for office. And that was the 1776 Maryland Constitution. Further, here is the presidential electors that they have here. And this is notice of temporary adoption. This was the state of Colorado. And this was their oath here. So that's this one here. So what I'm saying is that you can't. This is 5 pages. 5 pages of stuff, and it's essentially trying to what it's trying to do is change the whole dynamic of the country, because they keep calling this smaller and local township jurisdictions. And they're trying to claim that they have national jurisdiction under the township jurisdictions, that they're all connected somehow. So that's how they're operating. I'll get into what actually you're supposed to see, but when people are looking at this, you'll probably have this feeling of what is going on here. Okay, that is so messed up, it's unbelievable. It doesn't make any sense, and you're right, it doesn't. It gets into assume the duties of self-policing and maintaining the peace. And then it goes into, all these different terms and conditions under oath, and that's not an oath. This is usually an oath right here. That's a basic oath. How it's supposed to be basically set out is these are supposed to be done in township ordinances. All this stuff is supposed to be in the township ordinance, and all you have to do is you take an oath to uphold and support the township and its constitution. That's it. That's what you're supposed to do, and then you take an oath to do. And once that's done, then you're a qualified elector in that township only. But you can't say that you're a qualified elector in all the other townships. You're only a qualified elector in that township.
That's right. That's the way it works.
Mm-hmm. So all these things that they're doing are so out there that it is very concerning to those real American nationals that tend to do things right and tend to do things the way that they're supposed to be done. I'll give you an example. The town of the Rain of the Heavens, which is in fact, we put it on the map a little while ago. It is there. Just put in Town of the Rain of the Heavens on Google, and it'll take you right to it. This is a charter and everything else. And then you have all these things: powers of the town, legislative and executive branches, legislation, other elected officials, administrative departments, administrator, elections, public interest, personnel system, transitional provisions, powers of the town. It goes on and on. It's all here. It's 27 pages long. You have a clerk of a court. You have duties and responsibilities, resolutions and motions, election procedures, all these things, but there's no elections in this particular this guy's township, and there's no name for it. There's no nothing. And you got to have a flag and a seal for that town. You have to have an address. You can't just, we're going to forego an address and then just take over all the townships and speak for them. And then speak for the whole USA, or speak for everybody, here and there. You can't do any of that. So lo and behold, obviously he's not going to show up to this joke, but you have ordinances, emergency ordinances, it goes on and on. You have referendums, mid-year, the whole thing, charter amendment and repeal. You have all these things. You can have franchises in this one, which are basic franchises. All franchises granted by the assemblyman shall be for a fixed term, not to exceed 20 years, and no exclusive franchise shall be granted for the use of any street, road, or public place. All franchises, shall be the subject and power of eminent domain, the right of the assemblyman or the people, acting for them through the initiative and referendum to appeal. All this stuff is put in here, and it's very specific. Okay, and this is not a oath. It sincerely is not an oath. Just because it says qualified elector's oath doesn't necessarily mean it's an oath. Because when you go into these archives, there's no charter, constitution, nothing. There's nothing here. No one was ever elected. No one was he's got a town constable here. Oh, here's the, wait a minute, the town constable. Yeah, let's take a look at that. I think in here he gave the town constable his own court. If I can find it. It was, here, let me look up, I'll look it up. I'll just put in court. There it is.
Yeah, constables don't actually preside over court because they are officers for the court. So that would be a conflict of interest.
Well, it'd be a dictatorship. The same thing they're accusing me of, they've already created for themselves. It's a dictatorship. You see what I mean? So they're accusing me of being a dictator and all that, but yet they've done it to them. They've done it already. That's what they're doing. So this is called, what we call it, self-projection. And there's there's a precinct captain, maybe the precinct, because I don't know, he must have done some research on a precinct and thought that was the whole thing. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. None of this is not a charter or a constitution. You see where I'm coming from? It doesn't. There's no charter or constitution here. Nothing.
There's no validity for anything that they're claiming because there are no instruments to back it up.
And there was no public notice of anything. There was no nothing. It didn't matter. And they're getting ready to slander and cause a lot of human rights violations and all that kind of stuff. And I know that's what they're doing. But we're trying to show people that we're just using this as a teaching moment of stuff you just simply don't do. I think it was in here. I'm opening this up again. This is the same thing. But I saw it in there the other day. He said the township constables, just the peace, AK precinct captain. So the precinct captain, that's misspelled there, is also the justice of the peace. Now, How do these guys get into office? Where are the rules for elections? Where, how are elections proceeding? How's all this done? And by the way, where's the township seal and their flag? And where is it? What township are they talking about?
Right, right. It's like putting together a well put together the fairy tale where everybody's supposed to go along, but nobody knows that that's what's happening.
Exactly. So you can't do this, folks. It doesn't work this way. And this is why patriot groups do not get a lot of respect, because they do things like this. They don't, it's not just from, this government, it's all everybody. They look at it like you're nuts. How can you respect, how can you walk up and respect that? Who's who? What's what? Where do I go? Who's in charge here?
I guess they think there's a lot of gullible people out there that's going to believe this load.
Right. Right. So you have here, let's go to, let me see if there's, oh, here's the public notice. That's right. Okay. So they're going to try to, I kept, apparently in this, apparently my elector status is on trial. Well, I'm just telling everybody, I've never had, I would never join anything like this. And I've never had an elector status with whatever this is. I do have, my person does have citizen status within the town of the Reign of the Heavens, which is actually mapped on Google Maps, and it's actually there, and there's a chain of title and everything to it. So that I never would involve myself in something like this in any way, in my private capacity, in any way, shape, or form. So if anybody thinks that, well, he went there and he was involved in this, I'm not involved in this. No way I would touch it. We do give people like this, okay? We do give them, we try to help them, okay? And how we try to help them is we hand them a charter for the town. You can call it a constitution or a charter, we don't care. And it's prepared by the Committee for the Government of the United States of America for submission to the voters of the town. And we help them. We put this whole thing together. It's 31 pages, and they can have it if they want. And then they go through and they change what they need to do. And then it has the town boundaries, okay, right here. And it's 31 pages of helping people try to get their things together. So if he wants to be a justice of the peace within his own town, they're more than welcome. I really don't want to be a part of it. So whatever your invitation was, that will be respectfully declined. I really don't want anything to do with it. Thank you very much. And but you definitely do need some help. Okay, there's a lot of help that you do need, and you're welcome to this particular document here. Because what you've already set up for yourselves is nothing more than a dictatorship, and you have accused me of being a dictator when in fact you are the dictator by wording and writing. So
it's all evident. It's all public.
Exactly. So their public notices are doing nothing but helping prove what we've been trying to tell people for a long time. The patriot groups today, most of them are dictatorial, and they always when they come here and they come to this government and they try to most of them, a lot of them try to take it over, number one, and everyone here is equal, so there's no taking over. And number two, they try to once they try to take it over, they try to corrupt it like this, because they have no idea what they're doing.
It looks like a bunch of propaganda, and also some statements made against somebody. It just doesn't look right. Propaganda.
Right. They say, which generally support this complaint against Keith Livingway. There's no complaint, guys. Minutes of the meeting are not a complaint. That's not what that is. Minutes of the meeting are resolutions that a certain body comes up with, and then they go on to a complaint and an affidavit. You have to have a verified affidavit. There's no affidavit here. There's no nothing.
That's what I was just going to say. This does not look like an affidavit.
And a public notice is not an affidavit. So there's nothing actually to support. And there's no law that requires, okay, I think there was one thing, despotic, and he calls it despotic and tyrannical. There's no law in existence in this particular whatever it is, what he's calling himself township jurisdictions, and speaking for all the townships, I guess, that if someone is despotic or tyrannical, that they lose their elector status in a in a fictional world that they've created for themselves. So there was a couple of TROH shows ago that I've shared with a lot of people on how this all started as far as the meets and bounds were concerned. I did want to tell everybody that that particular document that we of the meets and bounds claiming of the country and everything, that is not in my hands. I transferred that to the government of the United States of America.
For the people.
So that everyone that took an oath and affirmation to the United States of America could share in that claim of the meets and bounds.
So now we became a party to it.
Yeah, when you become a
that's
party,
right.
everybody shares it equally, and it's not in my hands. So I'm trying to tell Anna and her cohorts, like in the Vatican and everything, you guys that are attacking me personally, you're completely wasting your time. Because number one, you couldn't remove me if you wanted to. Number two, I don't have the claims in my possession. They're in the hands of the government of the United States of America.
Okay, and a dictator or a tyrant shares nothing.
That's right. So no, I don't have any of that. So you can, if you're slandering me, yes, I can come after you if I want. I just, you're going to probably, after we're done with this particular special edition, you're probably going to be praying I don't write an affidavit, because I've got you on I don't know how many human rights violations. I haven't added them up there yet.
And each one's valued at $750,000 each occurrence.
Exactly. So don't think that I'm some kind of fraudster that I won't go on the record, because every one of the accusations that they came up with are absolutely false. Absolutely false. Let's go into their transcript here. He says, work towards resolution that Keith Williams, because of his activities and his general lack of respect for common law due process. Gee, I wonder who has lack of respect for common law due process and the rights of others. Yeah, I don't have any respect for the rights of others, but yet I transfer a claim that I had over to the government of the United States of America so everybody else could have it too.
After you dug through all those layers of overlay.
Mm-hmm. And he is not a qualified elector. I wouldn't be a qualified elector in your body politic if I no way in hell be running the other way. You'd have to catch up to me. Okay. Within the organic body politic of the USA, folks, this government is not under the Constitution. I don't know how many times we have to say that.
I always thought it was under the Articles of Confederation.
It is. It's under the Articles of Confederation as amended. It is not under the USA Constitution. Get the hell out of our jurisdiction with your claims. You're in our jurisdiction. You keep coming over and screwing with us, and you have no right to. If you want your Constitution, rock and roll. Go for it, bro. It's all yours. You can have that $21 trillion whore. It's all yours. We don't want it. It's got flaws upon flaws in it. It's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, so it's not we don't want it, and we have it on the what do you call it, the lawyers' nexus, that we are a non-citizen, non-resident alien to the United States of America, which is the Constitution of 1789. We are not under that. We have it on record at the Reign of the Heavens .com and their newspaper. We want nothing to do with your Constitution. We're not claiming to be under your Constitution. We don't want anything to do with it. I don't know how many times we've had to say that before these lies just keep coming out. Well, they're trying to do this, and we're not. We have nothing to do with you. And then it says here, Charles said, yes, he misled a lot of people, but we've got myself, Wonder Ann, this is Anna von Reitz right here. Who else is willing to affirm their support for this proposition? It sounds all crazy. It says, anyone else willing to join the objection to the status of Keith Livingway as a qualified elector? Absolutely, I'll join that. I'm not a qualified elector in this debacle.
Hey, I'll join that too.
I'm there.
You can put everybody's name down, and please do that. And then
Where do I sign up?
Now, you got to understand something about Charles, okay? And I'm going to show you something. Here's his deputy peace officer thing. But Charles was in an accident when he was 17 years old. He came to us around 2011, 2012. And he wanted us to get involved in this Walmart thing. I don't know what the hell it was. He was upset at Walmart. Some kind of thing. He doesn't understand anything about standing, okay? And he's 105 pounds. He's under 5 feet. Somehow they had cut off his legs. That's what I can remember. So he put on here that he's crippled. Right here. Okay, so all these people, there's also another guy that came in. And let me look him up. Okay, this is David Scheid. He had put in a case into the Human Rights Tribunal. I think it was last February, and the PAGs were representing him. And he was very close to the treasurer finishing up his case, but he screwed it up. And Bill, you there?
I'm here.
All right, Bill is a judge on the Human Rights Tribunal. So guess what he does? Tell him, Bill.
I was contacted 3 times in one evening, probably within the space of an hour. And Mr. Scheid was requesting that I contact him to discuss his case, and he would provide any information that I may need. Now, this case had already been heard by the Human Rights Tribunal, and it was in process. So basically what he was doing was demanding an ex parte case without any respondents, which is a violation of court rules. I did not contact him. I did not respond to him. I contacted the chief of the Human Rights Defenders and requested that he contact Mr. Scheid and request that he not contact me directly ever again.
This is after the case had been done. It was at the Treasury thing, and he started bringing up new stuff. He kept bringing up new things, ex parte, all this other stuff. Even one of the other judges even made a complaint and said, look, man, this guy keeps trying to contact us. Stop him. And that's not being dictatorial, folks. That's just simply telling you that we're trying to protect your case. So lo and behold, after all that, and then after he chastised everybody, this big old long list of chastisements, we said, fine, if you want to, you're not happy with the service you got here, go right over to the UN Human Rights Commission. You can head right on over there. And we told him good luck and have a nice day. That was the end of it. So he gets mad. He gets real angry and vengeful and everything else. And you can see what he's doing here. Apparently, a bunch of people are all talking, and he says, Charles asserted his position in the group to focus on wrapping up the Keith Livingway case. There is no Keith Livingway case, folks. This is just a group of people coming together and bitching. That's all that's going on. That's how much standing it has. And then they say his supporters. No, these supporters support the government, not me. I just happen to hold an office within the government. There are many other departments. And believe me, everyone here has an aversion of being told what to do. They hate it. So if I was a dictator, we wouldn't have anybody here. They don't put up with any crap from anyone. That's one thing that no one has ever realized. Okay. Then she said, okay, here's Wonder Ann. You know, remember all these notes and everything are all in these fictitious names, right? Nobody wants to come out and get on record. That's why they're doing this. It says, testify that Kilo had claimed that he had brought forward the Articles of Confederation, but that he could not produce any paper documents-based evidence in support of his claim. Okay. That was not only me. There were many of us that did that. And there's evidence all over the internet. It's all in the National Great Registry. It's all there. So there's another lie. Then they
And that's public. That should be a public record that they can go look up themselves.
They can go right over to the National Great Registry anytime and go look it up. Okay, all the notes and everything are written right in the Articles of Confederation. It's been published. It's been out there for years.
Yes, and everything on there can be found on Google.
And there's also videos of it.
That's
over
right.
and over and over and over. And, you know, we had to say this over and over again. Okay. So you have.
Sounds like to,
go ahead.
Sounds like to me that they don't know how to do any investigation.
Yeah, I guess so. They claim to have a 12-member juris, okay, a 12-member jury, but yet they have no charter that establishes it. They have no constitution that establishes a 12-member juris. There's nothing there.
I wonder who does the research for them, because they sure couldn't find something I could find.
I don't know. It says David answered. I don't know who David is. Oh, that's David. Yeah, that's correct. Yep, he leads with an iron hand from what I can see. If he wants somebody out, he will just brush them aside and treat them like crap, and they are thereafter out. That's not true. Okay? What happens is this. When we have the government is set up this way. It's set up as general postmasters. And what we do is we deliver through the general post office your person from out from under the Netherlands into the states of the Union. Now, a lot of people, because we're a national government, a lot of people think that once they get their American national status, that this is their government. So we have to correct them and say, no, what you need to do is go to your states. And as American nationals, now you have status within there, and now you can go ahead and start setting up your states under the states of the Union. You can join the Union, you can do this, you can do that. What they like to do is they like to hang around. And believe me, this guy, David, never even did a resident declaration. He's completely, he hasn't done anything. He's not even a part of it. He was being represented by the private attorney generals across America. He was their client. He has no resident declaration, no oath, or no nothing. He hasn't done a thing. Never a part of it. But he claims that treat them like that and thereafter. No. What we do is when one individual or two individuals are trying to cause a bunch of havoc and mess, which some of them do, all we do is take away their general postmaster status, and now they're American national. If you don't like it, go start your own town or assembly. Go start your own town or assembly. Now, what did we do? Okay, we're not treating them like crap and setting them aside. What we're saying is, go do it on your own. We're offering them freedom, independence, their own thing. And we'll even help them in our newspaper. We'll publish the existence of their town. We'll help them, anything they have to do to put that town together, that's fine. We'll assign a general postmaster to the town so they have an address and a jurisdiction. our laws within the national government don't even apply to that town. They don't even apply to the state unless the state adopts them. We're not even saying that you have to do what we tell you to do. Now, how is that dictatorial? I don't understand that. The general postmasters have their own elections. Everything. What we're doing is we set up nation states to work on their own. But for some reason, when you tell people like this, you need to get on your own, that is somehow dictatorial and a tort against them. They perceive it that way. I'll never understand it, but that's what they do. See, you see all these names: Beacon Leadership, Beacon. Who's Beacon 37? Now, we did say it says asserting that they have already signed up with the Hague. Okay, David asked Wonder to address the point that TUSA is asserting that they have already signed up with the Hague and that they have already accomplished everything that needs to be accomplished to secure the sovereignty of the USA. That's not true. That's a complete lie. And that all efforts of Beacon 37 and others of similar nature is redundancy. Okay, and then it says, declared that she heard from Beacon 37 leadership that TUSA paperwork filed at The Hague was incomplete and that it was not accepted by The Hague. We did not ask for The Hague to accept it. We did not ask for The Hague from The Hague anything, because The Hague is in the Netherlands, and they run Manhattan Island. That we gave them notice that it was done. That's all we needed. And that's all that's required on the Bureau of Private International Law at The Hague. You send them the Articles of Confederation as amended, boom, you're done. They don't need to sign anything or accept it or anything like that. We weren't looking to get into the New World Order. And we weren't looking to hand any of the sovereignty of the country over to private bankers. Complete lie. This is a complete lie.
That's right. Because we've already been through that and we see the results of it now. We don't want it to happen again.
Right. And you're right. We have done everything that needs to be accomplished. So this is a total scam. Everything that's being said here, a total scam. And then there was one guy, okay, that came on and said, there's a guy that claims that Keith stole paperwork and sold it. Tell him who that guy is, Marcus.
Well, he came on their call yesterday on the 21st of July, saying his name was John and he was from Montana. And I believe his real name is Robert Blair, who is a squatter. Rob Blair. He's been squatting on property that he does not own. He took it by thievery. He won't leave. And the people whose property it is, he's been very violent towards them. And there's even a record of him brandishing a weapon against a teenager.
A 15-year-old kid, yeah, that was trying to take pictures of the house with a, he wasn't even on the property. He was using a drone, trying to take pictures of the house. And this guy went out and pointed a shotgun at it. It was reported to the sheriff, and the sheriff didn't do anything. It's kind of a wuss over there, so he, he wouldn't do anything to the guy.
And he didn't have no rights to the airspace above it, so that's all legal.
Yeah. So they said it was.
As a matter of fact,
what we're saying is that yes, you already do have a republic form of national government. Now, a republic form national government recognizes that the people themselves do have the right of self-determination, and they can come in and start their own the towns and do everything they want to do by themselves, and we help them do it. We don't worry about municipalities and metros and all this other kind of crap. If you want to start your own town, we help you do it. That's what we do. We use what resources we have to help you set up your own thing. if a national government that you guys are trying to do are trying to make it tyrannical. And every time we get somebody that comes in and tries to create it into something that's tyrannical and taking over, they are moved over. And we tell them, look, you can always go get your own assembly, and you can see how long that lasts. That form of government lasts. Because in his own assembly, he's going to find out real quick, nobody's going to show up to the second meeting. We don't want anything to do with that. And that's a learning experience. We're trying to teach them. That's a learning experience. You're going to figure out real quick that no one is going to keep coming to meetings in any way, shape, or form by being tyrannical against them or trying to bring your idea of a government in.
I know I wouldn't be here.
No. And a lot has changed, from a long time ago. So that, but people don't see that. They take it as we were under a lot of pressure in the 2011, 2012, 13, a lot of pressure. And we kept getting people coming in, trying to change things as far as, turning it into a tyrannical thing, turning it into, dictatorial and all that. Basic communists were coming in, trying to bring their idea of a government in. I said, no, it's communism. And all the rest of the people were saying, no, that's communism. We don't want anything to do with it. And they didn't get it. They weren't understanding what we were trying to say. And by the way, these notes are not under any kind of seal. Nothing. And apparently they're under the 1789 Constitution, so it's foreign anyway. So they're essentially what they were doing. What's his name was saying, Charles. He says, well, essentially Keith Livingston's on trial. No, you can't traffic me over to you, buddy. That's called human trafficking. I think the penalty for that is 10 to 20 years.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Just that simple. And we have all these notes, okay? Pray I don't do an affidavit. Because if this slander keeps going, I just might. You people had no right to put my name on anything. This government is foreign to the Constitution. And it's a completely separate union. You have no authority to put me personally on trial.
That's right. And in international law, proper protocol would be if they had an issue with any office holder in this government, in this jurisdiction, their Secretary of State would contact our Secretary of State, which would then follow proper protocols. Other than that, you can't just snatch somebody out from where they are and bring them to where you are and then say, okay, you're standing trial. Nah.
Yeah,
Trafficking.
It's human trafficking. This is slander. This is a lot of things. Further, you can't, the rules of common law says that you have to have a physical damage. And just because you don't like the way somebody is, that's not a physical damage. I have to go into a township that I'm not a part of and destroy something or hurt somebody, like physically. I have to beat them up or something like that. Then you would have jurisdiction in the matter because I was in your township. But this particular township doesn't even really have, that he's called as a township, doesn't have any meets and bounds. Nobody knows where it is. There's no map. I've looked through their archives. I can't find anything. And guess what? There's no charter for it.
They sure are missing a lot of elements.
Which is violation of law. Now if there's no charter and no one was voted in, okay, so this ID card right here, Justice of the Peace, this is self-appointed. That's called a dictatorship, folks.
I don't see no seals on that either.
Nothing.
The flag, nothing.
That's a dictatorship.
Wow.
Okay, and then he's got another one calling himself a deputy peace officer. Now he's a police officer. And he's also American Christian Israelite public constitutional law. And so he's bringing his religion. So there's no separation church and state. Now we're talking about a dictatorship with a military theme.
He's trying to force his religion on somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Which is a violation of religious rights.
Wow.
Okay, so this guy, he's under 5 feet and he's crippled. So now let's look at what's really going on here. Okay, and you were on that. You were listening to the call, right, Marcus?
Yeah, I heard the recording after the fact, but yeah, I heard it.
Okay, so you have David, who's been fighting courts for 7 years, and he has a RICO. I think it's called RICO Busters. He has a program. He knew that to contact the judge privately without the respondents is an ex parte, so he knew he was violating rules and laws. We know that David is a part of Anna von Reitz, because you knew Anna von Reitz was on that call Friday, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Whatever her real name is, I don't really care. Now, you've got Anna, who knows that this guy doesn't really have any standing. Because why do I say that? Because she works with lawyers. Okay? Those lawyers would know whether this has any standing or not. And she also knows that he's not a justice of the peace. And all the judges they so-called send it to, all these guys here, let me see what we got here. We've got Ambassador Eric John, no such thing. Don Johnson, Arnie Rosner, Frank Winnan, Judge Anna von, no such thing. No charter here, no constitution. I believe some of these guys were actually put in jail, which was Steve Curry, Gary Darby. I'm not sure about that, but and then you got Angela Stark. I know who she is. He sends all this stuff. So brought by Charles Stewart, he does that at the same time he's claiming to be a justice of the peace. Now, what justice of the peace comes in and files a complaint on his own towards somebody and then tries to be justice of the peace in it? Conflict of interest, a violation of neutrality, violation of due process. I don't respect common law due process. Excuse me?
Seems that they don't either.
No. So, point being here, folks, this is nothing more than a bunch of people that went over to this guy here, Charles Bruce Stewart. Okay? They know he doesn't have any, they know he's not doing anything right. Every one of them know that. And throws a 105-pound, under 5-foot guy who calls himself a cripple under the bus.
Yep, that's what they've done. They've taken, here's some paperwork for you. Do this, file that. And they know the paperwork they gave to him was not right.
They knew it. They set this guy up for human rights violations.
Oh, wow.
All kinds of things. Okay. They set him up and they wouldn't come on record themselves. And they wouldn't,
right, because
they wouldn't sign any affidavits. They wouldn't sign any claims. They threw his butt under the bus.
That's right. They let him use his name, his picture, his assumed position of title, and all of them are on record under aliases.
That's right.
And you cannot have an official record with aliases. That is no record at all.
That's right.
That's also a violation of due process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now they have a complaint of one Charles Stewart and the others affirming their support. Oh, okay. So all they did was affirm their support under aliases, and who are all proceeding nation state ex rel in the public interest. You don't represent the public. None of you have any offices. Nobody elected you to represent the public, and there are many different publics of the whole nation.
Sound like a self-appointed dictatorship to me.
No, these guys were too cowardly to write their own documents, write their own complaints and own affidavits if they in fact had a complaint. And they've got to do it here within this government if they have a complaint. And if they want to go by common law, they've got to have some kind of damage, of which none exists. They knew what this guy was doing. They knew that and it also stated on his call that you have to have an oath as a qualified elector in his thing. He admitted that in order to not have for it to be taken away. Am I correct, Marcus?
Yes, you're correct. That came out of his mouth.
And oh, by the way, with this, I'll just change subject real quick here. With Rob Blair, I'll tell you all the story about that. I did a seminar up where he is in Montana. I can't remember the name right now of where that is. But I was there, and Rob, he's the kind of guy. Okay, he's one of those guys that covet everything. If you have some good stuff, okay, you have good paperwork. It was his. You stole that from me, and then sold it as your own. Rob, I've never met you before. That's the first time I ever met the guy. None of his paperwork was on the internet. None of his paperwork I had ever seen. And he all of a sudden he claims that I stole paperwork and sold it as my own. I never sold paperwork. I only did seminars. Paperwork was free. So I was just being paid for my time to teach people what I knew. That's all that was going on. And he comes in, you stole paper. I don't even know who you are, man. I just met the guy. And it was like his third sentence. I hadn't even put the stuff in or I hadn't shown anybody anything yet. So let's clarify that. So
and also another thing to clarify is that these claims of Costa Rica being a place where Keith is holding up, all false.
They keep saying I'm in Costa Rica. That's what the Democrats do with this Russian thing. Okay, they keep saying the same lie over and over again, and none of it's true. So they keep saying the same things over and over again, folks. Stop listening to them. It's all a lie. I've never been to Costa Rica in my entire life. I have no idea what they're talking about. So I wanted to throw some of this stuff in the mix here so everybody could see and understand and clear up a lot of misconceptions. And this is a teaching moment for everyone. Okay, folks, if you want your independence, you have to work for it. You can't just throw crap together and start claiming stuff that doesn't exist and then expect anybody to take it seriously. There was no way in hell I was going to show up to this kind of thing. That's called vigilantism. And you can't put somebody in default in one day. I don't respect common law rules. I'm sorry. That's 21 days to put somebody in default. That's notice, fault, and default. You can't do that in one day. I don't deal with dictatorships like that. I'm the dictator, but yet you are able to hold a couple of offices and throw somebody in default in one day. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about when it comes to these groups. And this is the kind of thing that we've been trying to stop. And the only way to do it is through education. The only way to stop it is through education. And when you have people that know better, that are too cowardly themselves to do anything and throw somebody else under the bus for a bunch of human rights violations, knowing that guy doesn't know what you know, that's cowardly, man. That's a coward move.
That's just wrong.
It is wrong. You are here to be able to help people and teach them what you know. So when you saw Charles Stewart writing this kind of public notice, you should have stopped him. Because you obviously knew he didn't know. And when you have a call where everybody's all over each other, talking over each other, no one can get a word in edgewise, that's called a debacle. Which means when one talks, everybody else listens. That's called mutual respect. And that's what we have on our calls, mutual respect. We don't agree with people in the background going to the bathroom, talking to somebody and yelling and all that. We mute them all out. because that's disrespecting everyone else. And
Yep.
we don't have a bunch of people talking over each other, which I believe, Marcus, that's what you said was going on over there.
Oh man, it was a cluster. There was no organization. People were just interjecting whenever they felt like it, stepping on all over other people who were trying to talk, and it was just a cluster. It was a
Yeah.
mess.
And keep in mind, folks, anybody advocating for the rule of law, that's canon law. That's foreign law of the Vatican. Whenever they say this is foreign law. Most of these people that say this are Catholic. We need to fall under the rule of law. That's canon law, folks. That's not American law. It has nothing to do with this country. We've said this a bunch of times. And then he said, due process of law will be scrupulously followed. Well, you can say that all you want, but we're saying it doesn't. Okay, this is the biggest debacle I've ever seen. However, if they want to learn and they want to go away and get rid of this slander, I have no issues with it. Whatever you want to do, I get it. I'm not going to start going after somebody who is just simply ignorant, because we're supposed to teach them as much as we possibly can. But if this starts growing and gets bigger and bigger, there's some human rights violations coming. And I've got about 4 or 5 of them right now.
All it takes is one.
And you don't want those.
All it
Trust
takes. Yep. So all it takes is one.
And all those people that that think that they can just go ahead and throw somebody else under the bus, like they did this one, that's not right, man. That is not right. You don't do that to people.
That poor guy.
I know. He's trying he's trying. You know, he's trying his heart out. He just doesn't understand. He doesn't know what he's doing. But he's just trying. And I get it. And the man needs some serious help in what he's trying to do. But you can't you can't take advantage of somebody like that because you're too chicken to face anybody. And that's really all it is. That's cowardly, folks. Cowardly.
Yeah, when you want to promote your own agenda and you want to put somebody else out in the forefront to take all the battering and punishment and everything else that'll come with it. Yeah, you're nothing but a coward.
And Rob Blair coming out, calling himself John, and then making a false accusation like that, he's a coward. He changes his name on the call, and then flies out with a false accusation trying to sell his usufruct junk that he's got that he didn't even do. He has nothing to do with that usufruct. He got that research from somebody else, but yet he'll claim it that is his own. He hasn't done any bit of research on his own since he's begun. He goes and takes everybody else's. There's never been a Rob Blair process. What's that, John?
What they really don't understand, too, is when they come up there with Charles Stewart and talk him into doing what they did, and then turn around and do it the way they did, they're in violation of his human rights also.
That's right.
They have committed human rights on themselves, on Charles, and on the whole proceedings from all sides.
And when we say that we have nothing to do with the Constitution and they keep saying it over and over, they're trying to force an international trespass. They're trying to move people's hands. They're trying to do all kinds of stuff. That's called inciting, folks. Inciting, guess what? You go to the Nuremberg trials, guess what the penalty for inciting was? Hanging. So when somebody throws inciting out there, they're saying you could be under the definition of hanging. That's a very serious offense. And when we say we have nothing to do with the Constitution, which we have said over and over and over again, don't try to come out and say we are. If y'all want to keep trying to get some kind of Christian republic going under a U.S. Constitution, rock and roll. We don't care. We're out of that mess, and we're not a tool to be used. This government is not a tool or a weapon to be used for you to get what you're trying to get. We're completely have nothing to do with it. People that come here want completely out of the whole mess. And that's what's happening. We get resident declarations almost every day. That map grows and grows and grows. Resident declarations. People just don't want to be a part of this mess. And they want to be on their own. They want their independence back. And the General Post Office delivers that person to a place they can have their independence back. That's all we do. Is there anything else I forgot to cover, guys?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything.
Okay. So, very first thing, folks, if you want to start doing something and start claiming offices, you better have a charter or a constitution or articles of organization. You better have something. Don't go out there and start saying, well, it's the rules of common law. It's common law that does. No. You have to have something. You have to be elected. And a body politic is people that come together and elect somebody. You have to have a political party. You have to have a bunch of different things before you can start claiming that you're a judge or some kind of justice of the peace or something like that. You can't just throw things out there and then just, yeah, I'm a justice of the peace and here's my ID. And then use, I think under his is using Oregon statutes. You can't do that. And since he is the way he is, people just kind of leave him alone. The local, cops aren't going to go mess with the guy. Nobody's going to really mess with him, or they're not going to really take him serious. They're just going to say, okay, whatever.
And also, one other thing I think we should add is that when people set things up ignorantly because they really don't know, and they start using the statutes of another place, you're actually committing copyright infringement because all of those statutes are copyrighted.
Under the Crown Temple, yeah.
That's right.
In this whole thing, okay, this is the worst part of this. And I'm glad we started talking about it because it reminded me before we ended the program here. This whole thing of going to somebody who's handicapped, taking advantage of them, throwing them out under the bus, and expecting me to come after some guy that's handicapped and try to make me look bad, like I'm some kind of tyrant and I would go start trying to mess with a guy who's handicapped and just doesn't know any better. That's sick, folks. That's sick, man. That is one desperate, sick thing to do. To try to make the public think that I would go after some guy like that and not thinking that I would figure out who was behind it and who was doing it, trying to set you up. If you're at that point, you got nothing. Give it up. When you got to go and call me dark and evil, when I've already signed a renouncement of all kingdoms under Lucifer and all that, I've already signed all that stuff, and to call me dark and then you do something like that, that's sick, man. That's
desperate people do desperate things.
Well, I don't know what's so desperate. We're not even under their constitution. If they want to still do what they do, go do what they do.
Actually, Keith, is what they've done to Charles Stewart up there. It makes you want to go over and help him against them.
I think he's reasonable. I think he would.
He absolutely needs the help.
Yeah, he needs the help because he just got set up big time.
That's right.
They knew he was wrong, and they knew what he was doing. They knew it. You can't tell me they didn't. They're smart people. They know. But when it all comes down to it, see, we told you he was tyrannical. He went after somebody who was this and this, and you guys set the whole thing up. That sounds like Democratic Party to me, man. That's all I got to say. Thank you for listening to the TROH Show Special Edition number 4. We hope you've learned something. Don't forget to subscribe and leave something in the comments if you'd like. We do have evidence for everything that's been said on this particular special edition. Thank you for listening to the TROH Show, and share it with your friends.